National Chair. That story is on page 8. Federal government hikes 2026 borrowing plan by 11 trillion naira. 2027, Atiku hires U.S. lobbying firm for $1.2 million, says report, and that story is on page 9. Talks intensify as Bauchi governor delays ADC defection. And that story is on page 8. Obedience mobilized for Occupy INEC protest. That's on page 8. Tinubu okays 3.3 power debt bailout. That story is on page 4. And on pages 4 and 5, Lagos pastor wife nabbed with illicit drugs. And lastly, on the front page of the Punch newspaper is a story on page 8. Oyo 2027, Makinde moves to name successor. And that's all on the Punch, front page of the Punch newspaper. Over to you, Jadisola.
Thank you very much, Fumbi. All right, on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper of this morning, the major story there says, power sector debts. Tinubu approves 3.3 trillion naira to tackle electricity crisis. The story is on page 14. Coming to page 29, Nigeria's banking market to hit $16 billion by 2023 on 7% growth. That's according to reports. NDLEA uncovers cocaine in palm kernel oil cans. Arrest kingpin in Lagos hideout. Now pastor wife for drug trafficking. The story is on page 33. Irregular bedtime could harm heart, brain. Doctor warns. The story is on page 15. Army rescue 31 abducted worshippers in Kaduna. Bandits kill 7. Suspected armed headers kill 9 in Benue. The story is on page 33. INEC directs Rex to suspend plans on voter revalidation exercise. The story is on page 32. And you have this one at 70. This is my story as a covenant child. That's, of course, Binga Daniel. And, of course, you could see the Nigerian Tribune newspaper, flogging advertorial on his 70th former governor of Ogun State. All right, we'll go to other stories on page 13. The essential Binga Daniel, a titan of two worlds, tribute to Pastor. Okay, that's another story entirely. All right, you also have on page 14, Shetima Atiku governors can PFN others charge Christian at Easter. Makinde acted within the law on elevation of Ibadan High Chiefs to Oba. That's coming from Akintola. Police arrest concern over, I beg your pardon, police express concern over masked VIP security personnel in Anambra. All right, that story is on page 15. We'll go on a break. And when we come back from this break, I'll take all the stories. Stay with us. Don't go away.
Cadbury 3-in-1 hot chocolate, the treat you deserve.
In today's fast-paced world, staying ahead demands peak performance from our bodies.
Like never before, our bodies need an optimum supply of essential nutrients, and Supermalt supports our daily nutritional needs.
Supermalt has 20 essential vitamins, minerals, and natural extracts for overall health and wellness. One Supermalt a day gives you energy and vitality, improves your mental performance, and supports your immunity.
All right, welcome back. Still taking some stories from the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. Still on page 15, Adeseun resigns appointment as Mayegu of Ogbomoso land. Says no need for Sean to quash suspension order. You also have on that same page, irregular bedtime could be harmful to the heart and brain. All right, let's come to the money market page. Why Nigeria ranks #1 globally in USDC ownership. That's according to experts. All right, recapitalization story is also there on page 16. On page 17, Nigeria's debt profile draws scrutiny and surge in global borrowing. Right, we'll come to other stories. Let's go to page 18. Taxation and tax page. TCC rattle on tax complaint candidate triggers disqualification fear ahead of 2027 polls. All right, new tax law. NRS takes over collection of mineral royalties. Nigeria's new tax regime expands the definition of resident individual, raises diaspora concern. All right, Nigeria's Tax Act 2025 list instrument exempted from stamp duties. All right, page 19, a price adjustment not the best option for brand owners during economic crisis. That's coming from Tony Agemonome. All right, we'll take some other stories on the leadership and strategy page. You have teaming and enemy within. All right, we'll come to page 29. Nigeria banking markets to hit 16 billion by 2030 on 7% growth. All right, quarter two, economic outlook. Heightened political tension may pose risk to policy focus, CPPE ones. Right, we'll go to other pages. Page 30, new standard on vehicle design for pre-shipment certification applicable to Nigeria. That's coming from SON and NADEC. Right, LPG price hike driven by supply constraints, global pressure. On page 31, Lamido dumps PDP. Alliance plans, vows party will contest all elective position. All right, Makinde raises concern over Nigeria's democracy, promises decision on succession soon. All right, on page 32, Senate defends Electoral Act amid criticism by opposition parties, others. INEC asked REC to suspend arrangement for voter revalidation exercise. And of course, on page 33, you have NDLEA uncovers cocaine in palm kernel. Troops rescue 31 hostage in Kaduna church attack as bandits kill 7. On page 34, CNG bus exploding in Kaduna Motor Park. Police bus secret cult meeting. Arrest 5 in Ondo. You have 2 deaths, several injured in Ibadan auto accident. Resident doctors to begin nationwide strike tomorrow. That's a serious one. A retired police officer planned peaceful protest at Villa, April 20th. All right, IG order officer in viral stop and search video to report to police headquarters. On page 38, how I bought the Marxists, Babatope and Awojobi to our side as UNILAG students. That's coming from Benga Daniel. All right, let's take more stories as we draw to the back page. All right, of course, the last one there. Wilders call out Joshua after beating Chisora. All right, those are some of the stories that made the headline this morning from the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. We'll go on a break, and when we come back, of course, we'll be serving you with the weather report, quotes for the day, and then we'll come over to the interview segment. Stay with us, don't go away, and thank you for listening.
When malaria knocks you down, you can be sure parasites are having a party in your system.
Welcome to our new kingdom, guys!
Comel, an effective weapon against malaria.
Coleman!
Attacking the parasite army directly to give you express relief and get you back on your feet effectively. Comel on. Malaria gone.
Thank you very much for staying with us. This morning, we will be talking about Nigeria's rising debt profile dilemma. It's been a conversation we've been having for a while now, looking at the rising debt, how much we are garnering as a nation in terms of debts. And it says Nigeria's rising debt profile has become a critical economic dilemma characterized by a rapid surge in total public debt, reaching 149.39 trillion naira by Q1 2025 and nearing 187 trillion naira, including new approvals later last year. To do justice first to this conversation this morning, we have a journalist and national trustee of Nigerian Union of Journalists, Comrade Sheye Ojo. Good morning, Comrade. It's good to have you. And happy Easter to you. Talking of Nigeria's debts and how much we are talking about currently, should Nigerians be worried? Let's start from there.
The debt profile of Nigeria should only be a source of concern to Nigerians. If the debt to revenue ratio is unsustainable. But looking at the GDP of Nigeria, gross domestic products, which is used to measure the size of economy, the debt of Nigeria is not bad at all. But when we look at the revenue, in the 2026 Appropriation Acts of Nigeria, the revenue target of Nigeria is projected to be around over 33 billion, above 33 trillion. But we are going to use over 15 trillion to service debt, almost 50% of the revenue projection. You can only say we should be worried if the revenue we are generating is not enough to comfortably pay back the loan. As long as we can pay back the loan, we should not be worried.
Okay, thank you very much, Comrade. Comrade, let's look at it. You've said something quite touching about what we are generating vis-a-vis what we're borrowing and our ability to pay back. And you have said that our debt is nothing to worry about. Now, let's look at the debt vis-a-vis how we're able to generate revenue. Now, you have talked about 33 trillion amidst the payback, of about 50%. Does this not look, because personally, I won't borrow 100,000 to pay back with 50,000. So this alone calls for questioning.
Yeah, you are right. I agree with you. But we should look at it from this angle. We cannot stop government from borrowing. But what is more important is, what is the government borrowing for? Is it a productive project? If you are borrowing to pay salaries, that is unsustainable. That is bad. But if you are borrowing to execute productive projects, projects that are self-liquidating in the sense that the project will generate revenue to repay the loan, that one is good. So, and when I said it's not bad, I'm not totally saying the debt profile of Nigeria is whether it's bad or it's not bad. What I'm saying is that we should look critically at two variables. I said the first one is debts to GDP. If you look at it, it's not bad. It's between 35 and 40%. Because we look at the size of economy of Nigeria, which is good. But at times, GDP can be deceptive because GDP will not repay loan. It's only revenue that will repay loan. So when we look at the ratio of debts to revenue, then that's why I quoted that figure, that in the 2026 budget of Nigeria, It is projected that Nigeria will generate over 33 trillion naira. Then come to debt servicing. It's projected to be over about 15.7 trillion, almost 50%. That's what I'm saying, that debt in itself is not inherently bad, but the revenue to pay it is what we should focus on.
Now, let's look at, I'm bringing you to some 10 countries in Africa, and I want us to look at their debt profile. So Egypt has $103.75 billion, the highest total debt in Africa, in the African continent, followed by South Africa with $58.77 billion. You have Angola, which is $45.77 billion, Morocco, $45.64 billion, Sudan, $37.84 billion, Nigeria, $32.46 billion, and followed by Kenya, Tunisia, Ethiopia, Ghana. Now, why did I take us through this? Is to look at where we are in the ranking of countries that are truly indebted, and we're number 6. Now, so which also corroborates your point that this is 2025 report, that Nigeria is not really doing badly. But again, you would agree with me that despite this situation, the federal government of Nigeria, ably led by His Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, on Wednesday, Senate approved for him $6 billion external loan for the federal government. The Senate approval was as a result of the President Tinubu's request. According to the President, the $6 billion external loan is meant to fund deficit infrastructural development projects, 2026 budget, and other economic issues across the country. Nigeria's debt as of January 2026 stands at over $110 billion and still adding more. Is this not worrisome that we're indebted and we're still borrowing to service the 2026 budget?
No, it's not that we're only borrowing to service the 2026 budgets. If we have studied the budget very well, there is a gap in the budget. The revenue being generated by the country is not enough to fund the budget. So it's only the gap that the government is borrowing for. And I said earlier, debt in itself is not inherently bad, but what it's used for. Now you said, Mr. President said the money will be used to fund 2026 budgets, then
infrastructural development projects.
But what the area where I'm really concerned about is not about just blanket justification of the infrastructure. The government should create a system whereby members of the public will be able to trace every dollar or tie every dollar to a particular project.
Okay. Based on that, just as you said now, it feels like we are not really seeing what these monies are used for in terms of infrastructure, like you said. But let's look at security, which, takes the highest allocation virtually every year. And this year it says 5.41 trillion naira has been allocated on security. And we see what's happening in Nigeria today. At what point, or what are those, key indicators that we would see that would let us realize that, or let us, accept that these monies are being used for what they're allocated for?
One thing is that with my little knowledge, you can trace allocations to some sectors. But when it comes to security, you cannot really trace everything. You can only see some things on the surface. Like now, every state governor is being given security foods. How are they spending the security foods? Are you going to call a governor, sit him down, and say, tell us how you are spending your security foods? So, and security, providing security is very expensive. You want to buy some...
Is anyone providing security? I'm sorry I'm asking that question. But is anyone, because, I mean, we could see in the reports this morning, the number of lives that have been lost during this holiday. We could see the number of people that were abducted. So what are we really spending on security?
You see, you cannot really say who is providing security. But we have the military, the Nigerian Army, we have the Air Force, we have the Navy. Then we have the police, we have Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, and other sister security agencies. Even at state levels, we have in the Southwest, we have 5 states in the Southwest, we have Amotekun Corps. In Lagos, they have Neighborhood Watch. In the North, they have ISBA. And they are all working. But it's like the security agencies are being overwhelmed by insecurity in the country. And there has been allegation that when our security operatives, when they go on foreign missions, they perform excellently very well. And they come back home with medals. But when it comes to internal security, it is an issue.
So why is that? Why is that so? Is it that they do not have enough resources? They are not giving priority where, priority should be given. Why is that so? Why do we perform better outside and not do as much as we should in our home?
You remember that in 2014, when former President Goodluck Jonathan was seeking second term in office, he raised an alarm that Boko Haram insurgents have infiltrated his government. It means people that are sympathetic to the cause of insecurity in Nigeria, they are in government. I'm not saying they are in this government, but that was what former President Goodluck Jonathan said. And it's possible they are in government.
We are still hearing of that even till today. Some state governors are coming out to say, they are in Abuja, they are here, they are there, we know them, we know where they are, but they cannot name names.
Let's give that to the government. The government should be able to do that because the primary function of the government is to provide security of lives and property for Nigerians. Any government that cannot do that, in that area, is a failure.
Okay, let's look at the risk of having high debt profile. What are the risks embedded in it? Can we look at it?
See, when we have high debt profile, the risk inherently in it is this. Funding, like I said the other time, when the revenue projection of Nigeria is for 2026 is over 33 trillion naira, and the debt servicing is gulping almost 50% of it. It means we have a reduced funding for infrastructural development. It means hospitals will not be able to be funded very well to have equipment that should be used, that they should use to attend to members of the public in medical needs. It means schools will suffer deficit of infrastructure. It means many things will suffer from it. But beyond that, I think we should look beyond the risk, and see how we can mitigate the effect of high debt profile. Then we should look at diversification of the economy beyond oil revenue. Then apart from that, we should encourage public-private partnership in execution of projects, because this will help to reduce high debt profile of Nigeria, because
Or even corruption.
then plug corruption, because a private person that is coming to invest his money in a particular project, then we want a return, and then we'll be able to monitor it to ensure that it is done. And then apart from diversification of the economy, public-private partnership, another thing that economic experts have been agitating is expansion of revenue generating capacity. And that one has to do with tax increase. They said they are arguing that tax should be broadened, not necessarily be increased, be broadened to capture informal sector so that the burden will not be too much on the poor masses. So we should look at those areas, and then we have said this before, I will still repeat it, that debt in itself is not inherently bad. But debt to revenue, we should be able to pay our debts comfortably if we are generating enough revenue. If we are not generating enough revenue to pay back our debt, that is where the concern should be.
But the way it is now, you're saying we agree, debt is not entirely bad, but at what point does it become an issue? Does it become a worrisome situation for Nigeria?
Debt will become a worrisome situation for Nigeria if we are not able to repay our debt. Again, if you will remember between 2014 and 2017 or thereabouts, Nigeria and some state governments had to borrow to pay salaries. If we are borrowing to pay salaries, that is bad. It's a red flag. But if we are borrowing to fund projects that are self-liquidating, that can repay, that can generate revenue, like when you build road, toll road, when you build railway, when you build power plants.
What are we generating from those places you mentioned? We're still having epileptic power supply. The federal government just approved 3.3 trillion naira. It's in the news for electricity, meaning that stylishly we're still paying subsidy in the power sector. You're talking about railway. What is government generating there? How many railways are moving per day? I'm not talking about Lagos where you have the blue rail line and all of that. I'm talking about the federal government project that we all see in Ibadan here. They move 2 times a day. And no matter how long that train is, what are they generating?
You see, we have not looked into the accounts of the Nigerian Railway Corporation, but I know they are making money. But how much they are making is what is not known to members of the public.
Those are the issues. Again, I remember that the last time, which was a long time ago, that I went through the train to Lagos, I recall that they said they would not take transfer. They were taking cash. And that in any way can lead to diversion of funds. These are areas and issues that we need to look at. I see no reason in this century. As at the time I was talking about, we're even talking about cashless policy. And that's the federal government, parastatal, that's still taking cash. I think these are areas that we need to focus more on.
I think this is where I represent the media sector, the Nigerian of journalists, and I know that we journalists, media organizations, we have been projecting this to members of the public and to the government because we are the watchdog of the society. I think this is BCOS. I want to charge BCOS, do a special report on the issue you have raised, and then we'll be able to call the attention of the government to it. Government at the top, the officials of the government at the top may not be aware of this, that during this cashless economy, at some railway stations, they are insisting that you should pay cash. You should not do transfer, and they are not collecting cash payment, which should be looked into. It should be investigated, and anti-graft agencies should look into that.
Now, when we raise alarm, these alarm of agencies, especially where we do not see the books, the records are not set straight, how should people, begin to raise questions? Where are those quarters, we begin to send our questions to, especially where, or for an economy like Nigeria, where there are questions, everyone is questioning, how the government is spending revenues, spending money, borrowings and all. Don't you think we should have an open book system where everyone can have access to the record and say, yes, this establishment is earning this, they are remitting this certain amount? Why are we not having such?
Well, I know that if you see the budget of Nigeria, even the budget of Oyo State, when it is being presented on yearly basis, you will see that it's very voluminous. But what we get to see, maybe the speech of the president, the speech of the Senate president, the speech of the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and at the state level, the speech of the governor and the speaker. At times, chairman appropriation bill in the Senate or in the House. But when you look critically at the budgets, you see that everything is there, even budget performance will be stated there. But how many people have access to that complete budget? No. Even I wanted to do budget analysis for some years. I requested for the complete budget. They said, what do you want to use it for? They did not give me.
Even through the FOI law? Or act, rather?
I didn't explore the FOI Act.
Maybe that would have helped, because with that, you could easily get it.
Maybe we'll do that. But what we are saying is this. The sectoral allocations, maybe to education, to transport sector, to education sector, to other sectors, everything is always stated in the budget. And by the time the next budget is coming, you see that the governor in his speech or the president in his speech will say, we just tell the House or the Senate that the last year budget was 75-point-something% achieved. So it's not always as it seems to members of the public, but the people in government, they should try as much as possible to be transparent enough to members of the public so that they will not be misunderstood.
Now let's look at how revenue are generated in Nigeria. We have the former FIRS, now NIRS. And as at the beginning of this year, there was, or before the beginning, there was an announcement that everyone have to pay their tax. And there are methods that had been aligned. And a lot of Nigerians went into chaos like, if I want to pay for this, you use loan, you use gifts. If I go to a point, people will pay their tithes in church and they will put loan, and all of that. Paying school fees, loan. Now, let's look at all of this. If Nigerians feel that they have to be taxed, and they're still seeing government borrowing, does this not discourage Nigerians?
I think this should not discourage Nigerians because tax payment is part of revenue generation for the government.
If you're generating so much, you still borrow?
We are not generating enough to cover the ambitious projects that the government has lined up. Look at Lagos-Calabar Road. It's an ambitious project that will go up trillions of naira. They are doing Sokoto to Badagry Road. It's not a 100 kilometer or 200 kilometer road. So there are some capital projects that will go up a lot of money. And when budget is a projection, that this is what we want to do, and this is the amount that it will go up. So it does not mean that everything will be achieved, but just to give government a direction, that we have a direction of where we are going this year, and this is what we are going to focus on. And if we have carryovers from previous budgets, then everything will also be budgeted for in the new budget. So it's not that bad, but it's just a projection.
Comrade, do you think Nigerian government embark on right projects at wrong times?
That's a big question that should be answered not only
because
by me.
because when we have projects that are done in bits, we see administrations who do not complete their projects at the end of their tenure, and then it spills over to the next administration, to the next government, and then they start all over. Sometimes they start all over. We've seen governments in this same Nigeria, some administrations, who completely demolish, or rubbish
the project of the past administration to start theirs all over. So is that not, you know, sometimes misplaced priority, sometimes putting efforts on wrong or right projects at the wrong time, or sometimes even wrong projects at wrong times?
Okay, let me use example of Oyo State to answer your question. When the late former governor Adebayo Laokala was at the ends of affair in Oyo State, he started the road at Challenge area. They call it Akala Road. That's supposed to link that side to Apata. Personally, I went there up to 3 times, at different times, to do special reports. When Akala left government, the road stopped. The government that came after him, I will not mention him, spent 8 years in office, did not touch that project. That's what you are saying. But governance is continual. When Governor Seyi Makinde came on board, and I would like to use my office to commend Governor Makinde. When it comes to infrastructure, he has done so well. Nobody is perfect, but he has done so well. Because that road I mentioned, Akala Express, he has completed it. Then some of us that live in Akubo area, there is a place called General Gas. If you are living in Akubo and you don't know the history of General Gas, if you are just parking to Akubo now, maybe you are
come to enjoy.
Because the traffic
gridlock
for that place, because the previous government that was in office before Governor Makinde came to power actually started the Diakwe-Akubo Road. But the flyover that will link Bashoru to General Gas in Akubo was not completed. Then when you get to rail crossing, we call Ojuri, it's another bottleneck of problem. But Governor Makinde came and solved the problem. Not only that, there are some projects like that he did, like Idiakwe Junction used to be problematic. He came, he fixed it. Look at Challenge, where roads coming from Ring Road links with one coming from Molete side. Though he solves that problem too. So that's what we are saying about government. When you come to office, when you see that there are productive projects, loans have been obtained to fund the project, you should complete the project because it will be beneficial to members of the public, people you are governing. And you should not go and start one. Not that you will not start your own. Governor Makinde also started his own. Look at Moniya Isheyin Road. It was started before he came on board, and he completed it. He did new projects like Ogumosho to Isheyin Road. That's a virgin one. Then he completed Oyo to Isheyin Road. Not only that, what about terminals that he has also built and some other things?
Well,
so
you're beginning to sound like the spokesperson
no, I'm not a
for the governor.
For the governor. Where government has done well, let us say that they have done well. But where they have not done well, let us criticize the government constructively and not destructively.
Okay, let's look at it. How can Nigeria ensure transparency, when it comes to debt management? How can we ensure transparency? Because when the money comes in as loan, we only hear when it's been approved by Senate. When the money comes in, we don't know. How it is being spent, we don't know. But the only thing we hear is that we are owing. And we all begin to brainstorm about how the monies will be repaid.
That's why I said the other time that government should create a system. And that system must create an avenue for Nigerians to be able to trace every dollar that is borrowed. And they should be able to trace it to a particular project. Without that system, even when government is very prudent in spending, members of the public will not know. But it's only when they know, they will be able to talk from an informed point of view and they will not be criticizing the government unnecessarily.
Comrade,
Okay.
sorry for me. Comrade, my concern is, you're talking about a system that will show us where the monies are going. Unfortunately, there are many projects that you cannot even locate the point where the project is being allocated to commence. There are some projects that you will see in the budget going to so states. You begin to look for, I have done some research on this before. I begin to look for exact place where those projects are located. You will never find them. Even on the list, they will not tell you the name of the contractor sometimes. Sometimes you won't know exactly where the place is located in certain places. And you start wondering, if you don't have this information, and you have also said you have requested for the whole budget to analyze and you're not being given. And we're not talking about a system that will show us that the money is going somewhere. I think bodies like, the NUJ, the NLC, those are the things they should protest about. Those are the things they should clamor to get, to sit down and dialogue with government, to ask questions, rather than only talking about increase. Because if we continue to ask for increments in salaries, yes, government will approve, they will pay. But what happens to what we are borrowing? Is it not going to a few?
You see?
Who are executors of this project?
See, the Constitution of Nigeria, 1999 as amended, Section 22, has given journalists the power to hold governments accountable. So it is we, the journalists, that should do more in exposing the so-called corruption in government. And what is corruption? Corruption is what the government is not doing the right way, or individuals are not doing the right way. But we should hold government accountable. We should do more of investigative stories, bring these things to limelight, so that anti-graft agencies, at times, though the buck stops on the desk of the president or the governor, but it is not everything that the governor or the president will know. There are some people that are working with them that may divert some things. They may say a project should be sited in Ibadan. So they now said, okay, let's say I heard of a particular project. They said the project, I will not mention. If I mention, you will know. They said the project should be sited in Iwo. Iwo is in Osun State. But when the project will be built, it was built in Ibadan. And it was built on Iwo Road.
Is it not Iwo?
So it's Iwo Road. Iwo. So we should do more of investigative story and expose. And then we can't sue the government, but we can bring them to the court of public opinion.
But when we have, we all see the structure that we are currently operating in Nigeria. Do you think when we start naming names, justice would be served? People would be brought to book when they, especially public servants, leaders, political leaders, when we start naming names, do you think it will be taken seriously? Corruption will be reduced in Nigeria?
You are right. But there are some things that are in the Constitution that you must protect against. You must have your solid evidence before you can name.
Definitely.
Otherwise, you'll be guilty of, you will fall into legal pitfall of defamation of character, whether libel or slander.
Yes.
So, and then, you see, people that are doing bad things, they have a way of silencing people that want to expose them. You too, you must know that your security is guaranteed before you expose them. That's the reality.
Because unfortunately, there is no protection for
no protection. Some journalists have been killed. They have been assassinated. Nothing happened.
Okay, we want to say a big thank you to Comrade Sheye Ojo, who is a journalist and the National Trustee of the Nigerian Union of Journalists. We want to thank you very much for being on the program and for sharing with us from your wealth of knowledge. We want to thank you very much this morning on behalf of our producers and crew member. All right, we want to go on a break, and when we come back, of course, a second guest will be joining us. Stay tuned. It's AM120. All right, welcome back. It's still AM120 on the Broadcasting Corporation of Oyo State. Of course, before we went on that break, we're discussing Nigeria's rising debt profile dilemma. And we have our second guest here with us this morning. Our second guest will also be doing justice to the conversation. He's Comrade Sonjo Akomo. Comrade Sonjo Akomo, you're welcome this morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
He's a finance analyst and retired banker. So we're going to be having this conversation. Let's look at Nigeria's debt profile. What do you make of this at this point? We kept borrowing. Even just on Wednesday, the Senate also approved another $6 billion for the president. Of course, saying that this money will be used to fund the 2026 budget and, of course, some developmental projects in the country. Why are we borrowing?
Well, thank you very much. In any organization that has to do with finance, you have to do budgeting. You have to do your cash flows, sources of funds. First and foremost, you cannot have everything that you need. Yes, you can never, especially if you are the kind of a personal business, private business, nation, whatever, that wants to grow. Is an essential ingredient for growth and development. You just have to borrow. Because you cannot, there is no that person that has everything that is needed. And if you don't have what is needed and you are planning to grow, you are planning to expand, where will the revenue or the resources come from? Then you have to look for, we call it financial intermediation. You look for intermediaries, banks, friends, Isusu group, all sorts of things to go and take money. And you all agree with me that we all do it. And even in advanced economies, a lot of people there, you look at them, they look so well-fed, good looking, they are living well. Majority of them are living on credits. So when you are talking about loan, borrowing, debt, there are so many things that are attached to it.
So it's an everyday activity.
Oh, yes. And you just have to.
And so what you're telling me in a nutshell is that I shouldn't be scared of borrowing.
It's not a sin. It's not a death sentence. And
okay,
it is essential.
But what you said just now, borrowing for what is needed. Now, do you think Nigeria is looking at economy, looking at the debt we are currently plagued with? Do you think we are borrowing for what is needed, considering the fact that when we look at security, architecture, infrastructure, education, healthcare, there's a lot of question. Do you think we are borrowing for what is really needed?
That's another side of the argument. When you are borrowing, what are you borrowing for? I've just mentioned that it is essential that we borrow. But what are you borrowing for? Are you borrowing for production? Are you borrowing for consumption? Are you just borrowing just to make sure that, well, people are taking loans and you are taking it? So there must be a purpose for borrowing. And when you look at the Nigerian budget over the years, we have always been running a deficit budget, which means we are spending more than our revenue. We must understand that. And there are so many reasons for it.
Please tell us.
Foremost of it is we are not producing enough. We are not a production-based country. We are largely a consumptive society. We consume what others use their brain and hands to make. And once you are in such a situation, you have to encounter a lot of vagaries in terms of supply, in terms of prices, in terms of everything. If you plan for something today, and tomorrow the producer said this is how much you are going to pay for it, and you have already budgeted a lower, which means if you actually need that particular product, you have to go and borrow. So as a consuming nation that we have, is giving us a lot of disadvantage. And that is why most of the time, our budget is always in deficit. And when you are running a deficit budget, definitely the gap has to be filled. And that is why you go to international market, you go to local market, domestic borrowing, all those things are there. So it is inevitable that we will borrow. And let me put it this way. Nigeria is not a poor country. I want everybody to know that. Nigeria is not a poor country. The only thing that we have is poor management. And also, Nigeria has very vast potentials. We are so blessed by nature. We are so blessed in terms of mineral resources, intelligent people, and that is why Nigeria will continue to be attractive to creditors, because we know that we have that capacity even to pay. Because when you are borrowing, if you don't have the capacity to pay, nobody will lend you money. But as it is now, Nigeria, if you look at our GDP, the ratio to our borrowing, excuse me, you analyze our borrowing against our revenue. All those things will tell us whether Nigeria is in a very precarious situation. But just like your question, the question mark is that, are we borrowing as a poor nation or because of poor management? And from my own point of view, it is as a result of poor management.
But you just said that Nigeria is a consuming nation and not a producing nation. Is that also not linking to Nigeria being a poor nation, a nation that consumes more than we produce? Now, when we talk about producing, which sector should we begin to look into? And then, should this be on the government or on the masses?
Well, that's a singular question, but it has multiple dimensions to it. Because in some other countries, the role that the private sector is playing in the economy is so large compared to our own, where government is almost everything here. That is the difference. And if you don't have a viable private sector that are contributing higher in terms of economic activities, everybody in this country, they want to wait for what will the budget say, where is government going to spend, what is the direction of their spending. We are always focused on that.
But when you say private sector, we are looking at the books, the economy. We've seen how inflation has affected a lot of businesses. We've seen Naira devaluation. We saw floating of the Naira last year. We saw a lot of companies folding up, a lot of private companies folding up. Now, how do we retain these private companies to help with the growth of the economy of the nation?
The reason why we are having all this problem is that there is this very big infrastructural gap that is not helping private sector to thrive. Part of it is electricity. Part of it is transportation. Part of it is procurement of raw materials. You will agree with me that Nigeria is largely a primary producing country. We only extract. We don't add value. And when you don't add value, some other people will just come, they will take it, go and refine that particular raw material, and then sell it back to us at a higher price. So we are at a loss. So if we have, and I always argue this, it has to do with our educational system. Education that just gives us the ability to appraise, to admire, to describe, but not a deep education that makes people to think that if I add this to this, it can bring this. You see what is happening in Silicon Valley. That's a product of education by a university. Where are such things in Nigeria? Everybody is just copying what other nations are doing. They will bring it here, we appraise it, we like it, we say, okay, go and bring it, and we buy it. And which means we are permanently disadvantaged in terms of pricing, in terms of development, in terms of growth. Because We have not even seen a single individual or a single private organization that will bring a product that will drastically change our economic activities, like this internet has done. You see, the product that came out of Silicon Valley, the Apple, the Amazon, the Microsoft, all those, you see how they have changed the economy of the whole world. Do we have such here? So we largely depend on other people. Some people are thinking we are consuming, and it's actually affecting us. And that is why we continue to borrow until another thing there is that it's related to poor management. It's corruption. It's a free country for corruption. The only thing is that don't get caught. Once you are smart, you can violate the system, violate the economy, take the advantage of people, and then you go scot-free. You become a big man, and that's the kind of dubious people we celebrate here. Those people make it dubiously.
Okay.
They are the people we celebrate here. We don't celebrate highly intellectual, cerebral, innovative individuals.
Without result.
We don't even give them platform to strive. Rather, we go after them, frustrate them, even kill some of them. And that is why most of our brilliant minds are migrating out of this country to go and strive in order to climb. Okay, this is so unfortunate.
Okay, let's look at the depreciation of Naira. How is this affecting, or how will it continue to affect our debt profile? Let's look at the Naira, unstable, sick, unhealthy, hungry Naira.
I've just told you the basic, the foundation of all this problem.
Yes.
And that is our lack of production. And then we have this, I don't know the right word to use, this propensity to consume. We are so indisciplined in that area. Many people don't even want to see locally made goods. And the moment your own currency is always running after other people's currency, they can decide how much they want your money to worth. Because our money is the right to worth of our own country. And then when you want to take from other country their own right to worth, they have the advantage to tell you that this is how much we want to pay for your money. Had it been that economies are now coming to Nigeria, other nations are coming to Nigeria to run after our products on daily basis, it will affect the strength of our Naira. But that's not the case. We are always, if you see our businesses today, everybody is running after dollar. And when they are just simple economics, once the demand is very high, the price will always go high. And that is what is affecting our Naira. And I must give it to this government that has stabilized to a very large extent.
Is it stabilized?
Yeah, the foreign exchange. Yes, it has been stabilized. Because in the past, you can wake up today, dollar is 2 naira. By 3 o'clock, it's already 5 naira. So businesses, governments cannot actually plan that, okay, if you go to the market tomorrow, we are going to buy it for 2 naira. So if you need 10, we already know how much you are going to pay. But when there is instability, you have to wait until when you have the money and then buy at the spot rate that is available. And that is affecting a lot of projections.
So how can there be stability?
I think we have seen a lot of it now that the CBN have been doing to make sure that Naira, that foreign exchange market is stabilized, especially removing the dual exchange rate, making sure that we have something that everybody can be sure that it is available. I personally, with my own experience and outlook, I don't believe that a country should allow its currency to float. That's the object of our sovereignty.
So you think it was a wrong move last year by the government?
We have seen other countries. Have you ever Great Britain? What are the resources they have? they have intellectual advantage. They make sure that no matter what, the value of that pound, you cannot just do anyhow with it. There is that government, but in our own country here, we have very, very brilliant people, but when you talk of patriotism, righteousness, those things are in deficit here. So we have dubious, brilliant people who will look at a situation, and then instead of it to make it benefit their country, they make it to benefit themselves. And that is what has led us to all these things. Some people are making cool money with the variation in the exchange rate because they have access to some people in power. Also, they have some people in our central bank. So they collect dollar or pound sterling in the morning, and by evening they already become billionaires. And nobody is asking questions. Nobody is raising any eyebrow. The moment you get away with it, you can either become governor or you become senator and entrench yourself further in our country.
Okay.
So this is because of those things that are affecting us. Largely, corruption leads to poor management of our economy.
Okay, let's look at this report in the Nigerian Tribune of this morning. It said Nigeria's debt profile draws scrutiny and surge in global borrowings. It said Nigeria public debt position is drawing renewed attention as global government borrowing hits historic heights. With analysts warning that the country's fiscal vulnerabilities lie less in the size of its debt and more in its capacity to service it. New data indicates that global public debt has surged to 111 trillion in 2025, a more than five-fold increase from 19.7 trillion dollar, beg your pardon, in 2000. The sharpest increase shown the 2008 global financial crisis and the COVID-19 pandemic period that triggered expansive fiscal intervention across major economies. Now let's look at this surge that just, the heat, how it went suddenly up. You have told us a lot of indices that has taken us to this level, but what do you think is wrong? Yes, COVID-19 broke every economy down. Most economies are already rising up. They're beginning to do better.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that we also didn't do better. The Dangote refinery has supported the Nigerian economy by way of producing to stabilize. Now tell us, what more production can we embark on to stabilize the Nigerian economy?
We cannot take on any production until we've largely filled the infrastructural gap. Very, 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 very important.
Okay.
And that is why you will see that this economy, to a large extent, we've been able to move out of recession on 2 occasions. And kudos to those who are managing it. And then they came out with an idea that they want to make the economy a $1 trillion economy. And that target can never be met with the current situation of the infrastructural level. It will never happen. So we have to, there will be a surge in building infrastructure that will produce that economy. And that is the main reason I can deduce that we have to build up a lot of things. If you look at our transportation system in Nigeria, largely depending on road movement. The railways is still underdeveloped. The waterways still underdeveloped. You see, they are now, since 1977 or 78, that Tinkan or Apapa port was, none have been developed since. So if you want our economy to expand to the extent of having a trillion economy, that sector needs to be developed. Then, network of railways in the country, motorable roads in the hinterland. All those things, electricity, which is the grandfather of all development. Because even God Almighty, before he started creation, he said, let there be light. That is energy. That is power. But still today, we are still grappling with electricity. And for us to actually move forward, we must, once and for all, is within our capacity to solve the problem of electricity. It's so embarrassing that universities that are older than the Nigerian independence, they are still paying bill for electricity.
They should have generated?
Of course.
So what do you think is...
That is why they are called university.
So what's holding them back?
Colleges of technologies. What are they bringing to the table in terms of innovation? What are they? Local technology to produce this thing. If you bring it, then we can... We all know the story of that South Korea company. Everybody started laughing when they were imitating all other products. But today, they have mastered this thing. So, I'm challenging our tertiary institution to copy what is happening in Stanford, the Silicon Valley. I was in UK in 2006, 2012, and I particularly witnessed a lot of exhibition by universities at National Exhibition Center in Solihull, in Birmingham. And I saw what universities were bringing, and inventors, business people are coming to buy the franchise, to invest in those franchises. And they are doing well. A particular university invented this, what is it called? The traffic lights, the CCTV.
So what's wrong with our own universities?
That is the question we are going to
because a lot of times we see ASU going on strike.
Anyway, don't let us talk about them.
No, but we have to mention it.
I think what should be done is that the government of the day should be able to come and sit down with our intellectuals, the ivory tower, because the gown and town relationship should be productive and should be developmental. The chairman, I think Chairman Mao of China, during the Cultural Revolution of China, he called his scientists. He said, look at that America. The reason why they are just proud and they are bullying everybody is because they have nuclear power. I'm giving you 20 years. Make China a nuclear power. Give me your requirements. What do you need to get that done? And the scientists, they deliver after 12 years. And that is why China can look up at America in the face.
Do you think this is doable in Nigeria? Is this doable in Nigeria?
Why is it not?
Look at during COVID-19, a lot of tertiary institutions were willing to produce drugs that could combat COVID-19. There was no fund. It went through phases. I monitored it.
That is why I mentioned government, that government must be willing to pay the price of innovation.
Which government will?
At any level. Let us... Okay, look at what that professor is doing in Abia State. That's a product of intellectual capacity, isn't it? And he's a Nigerian. Why can't that be copied? Even challenged?
When we have a lot of professors or those in the academics, when we have them in line of leadership, we'll be able to achieve more in Nigeria.
I think they belong to a different sector of the society. They are
different sector that will produce positive
yes, it is their product. It is the product of that sector that will change the way. But when you see professors now becoming administrator, becoming politician, the original calling, the original investment in his capacity as intellectual is already pushed aside. And the reason is that everybody wants to live good. They believe that they have been neglected. That's why I said a government that is willing to pay for innovation. What are the things that you, as the ivory towers, What do you need to make sure that we feel your contribution in this area? If it is only electricity, challenge them, give them the money. But unfortunately, our politicians, they prefer to give kings, pastors, afar, marabout money to pray for them.
They have not also challenged the powers that be enough.
Or they have not even shown that they are competent to do some of these things.
You have raised something that I challenged one of my friends who is a professor. I said, you people have been very, very quiet. You are just comfortable in your cocoon. And nobody, unlike in the past, that people, they will write paper, but that is not enough. You can compare a situation where a group of intellectuals, they have produced something and take it to government and tell you, this thing, if you do it, this is going to be the result. And if they fail to do it, they can... I remember the man who taught me innovation and creativity. When we were listing all the criteria you have to fill, finance is the last one. So which means after all the 13 or 14 steps have been taken, you can now approach a bank, whether locally or internationally, to do your own product. But I think attention has been shifted away. Everybody just wants a share of the national cake, and nobody is thinking about creativity,
the future of this country,
innovation.
Okay.
Until we have a government who will say, people come around, let us innovate. And what do you need? What are your requirements? Personally, I don't expect universities that are already 60 years, 50 years, still taking full subvention from government. Even the almighty Oxford University, Cambridge University in UK, when I look at their profile, what they take from government is just about 29 or 31% of their total revenue.
Wow.
The remaining, they get it on their own.
Because they are innovating.
And that is why they can influence government with their innovations.
Okay, let's quickly look at this power sector debt. Tinubu actually approved 3.3 trillion to tackle electricity crisis. President Bola Tinubu approved the payment plan to finally settle the outstanding debts under the Presidential Power Sector Financial Reform Program. The debt repayment plan followed the final review of the legacy debt that have weighed down the power sector for more than a decade. The long-standing debt, it was learned, accumulated between February 2015 and March 2025. Nigerian Tribune gathered that the government had earlier agreed on a total of 3.3 trillion as full and financial settlement of the sector legacy debt and 501 billion designated as a first tranche to begin repayment to power companies. Now, look at another debt that the federal government is clearing. Yes, from 2015 to 2025, a decade. And there are a whole lot in different sectors. These are just the ones that are coming to limelight that we're seeing. Now, with this debt, clearance, is this going to stabilize electricity in Nigeria? Is it going to help generation?
Well, I think the purpose why government has decided to pay that money is to make sure that people don't have excuse for not generating, that we have been owed money. And when a company or an organization is incapacitated by funding, definitely it will grind to a halt. And that was what they just showed to government. And now government is now rising up to that occasion to make sure that you people don't have excuse. Just like the report you gave the other time, I want to challenge those people who wrote that report. That Nigeria is taking a lot of loans, and they are tying it to infrastructure. Don't just sit down and give us the figures. You must follow government to wherever. Are you spending the money for that particular purpose? It's not just...
That's what you see like Serap doing. You see Budget and Tracker doing.
Serap alone is not enough. Serap alone is not enough. All these, especially the media, we just don't report that they are taking money. We must follow them where they are spending. The moment we know that they are sharing the money, we should be able to make...
But we see Nigerians cry out we see Nigerians stop. We've seen instances where people go to a hospital and they do not get the service they should get. We see people talk about education. We see people talk about infrastructure. But it feels like our leaders do not listen. Now, at that particular point, or where we have issues like these, how else should people cry out?
Well,
how else should people monitor closely how the monies are being spent?
Let me tell you, Nigerian Labour Congress, all this Nigerian Bar Association, NMA, all those powerful associations and unions, the states and national assemblies, these are people that are supposed to be in the vanguard of putting executives on their toes. But until we have a paradigm shift where we believe that executives are gods and cannot, if all those institutions, they have a joint resolution and challenge government that, but unfortunately, most of the time, this organization agitate for their own salary increase.
That's a challenge.
That is a challenge. If not for that, let them come together. Forget about our salary. The equipment we are going to, I remember I was once a unionist, and I told my colleagues that money will not answer everything. No. It's a fallacy that money answers all things. No. It's a bloody fallacy. If you have money on the ground, it's there. If that money is not judiciously used, it
can't answer anything.
It can't answer anything. We have to use our brain, use our hands. And that is why the 5 injunctions God gave to us at creation: multiply, replenish, fruitful, then dominate and subdue. They are actionable words. They are all actions. So it's not just about God has said it will happen. He has put us in charge here. So there should be a consensus of opinion about what government is doing. But when a section is saying this, another one is saying this, another one is negotiating for his own benefit. Once those ones get their own benefits, then they change their own, they shift their own position too. But if everybody is unanimous that we want development, we want our, first and foremost, hospital must be equipped. How can you ask me to go to a classroom? No chalk, no chairs, the windows, even the environment is I cannot.
So, comrade, at this point, what can we do? Where we have people that should be fighting for the cause of, or unions, a set of people that should be fighting for the cause of the people are not doing that anymore, or doing it as much as they should. What should the people do? How can we get results?
What the people will do, it will happen. And this is just a warning to the political class. The people will come up one day. It's going to be spontaneous. All this arrangement that we are going to storm the National Assembly being organized by people is political. It will never work. Those ones will never work. The people that have, society where people rose against their government, the action was spontaneous. Nobody organized it.
Do you think Nigerians will ever do that?
It is well.
It doesn't look like it.
No. Some years ago, I told people that something will unite Nigerians. And one of them is already happening. The area of insecurity is uniting Nigeria. But where hunger and harsh economic realities unite Nigeria, nobody will call anybody.
I was driving along.
Nobody will call anybody.
I was driving along Dugbe area last week, and there was a bike coming beside me, and I heard the passenger saying, "We're close to hijacking tankers. We'll pack it and ask people to take fuel at no cost, and we'll teach them a lesson." And I said to myself, this sounds like the voice of revolution. But the truth is that the Nigerians that we all know, especially in the Southwest, people prefer to drink their gari rather than coming out to protest, because they believe that all the protests they have seen in time past was never in the interests or of the people. Looks like it was not in the interest of people.
Most of the protests we've been seeing are just a weapon used by individuals to get themselves into the corridors of power.
And people have knowledge.
Yeah, people have seen it, and that is why I say when we get to that stage where nobody will say, let us go, we only find ourselves outside. We have seen it happening in some other climes. But it seems some people are, this is a very big country. It is very difficult to make sure that people see things the same way. But there will be an occasion, there will be a time when people will say enough is enough. It's not going to be organized. Just like the French Revolution. It was never organized. It was later, during the revolution, that people started organizing themselves. The development of the lawn tennis assembly, all those kind of things. And there's no way. People will continue to suffer. There is a limit. There will be a breaking point. If they take us to that break point, I'm very sure they know the consequence. They are going to be the ultimate loser. So it's better for them to take a U-turn and begin to service the people and make sure that people are comfortable.
A quick one before we finally wrap up. Don't you think that the Senate or the National Assembly, yes, ought to usually do their scrutiny before approving loans for government or the executive?
I am telling you categorically here that they do. And
really?
We have professionals in the
really?
National Assembly. Yes.
Wow.
They have professionals. They do all those scrutiny perfectly.
How about oversight to ensure the execution?
That is the area we are now calling Nigeria to put pressure on our National Assembly that follow the fund.
Follow the money.
Follow the money. Don't take your, if you take your share, let us put a cost on it. If you take your share and you keep quiet, this is the cost for you. But when they follow the money, I always tell people that as civil servants, but because people are afraid, shame I just tell you. There is nothing any government will do that will not pass through a civil servant. And when you see it and say, oh God, this one is wrong, it will affect my own children too. And you call your colleague, this thing will affect your own children too. Can we allow this to go? And then you supply information to other people. And then from there, things begin to brew. When they see resistance is at that stage, there will go to be a change. But people just say, give me my own.
With what we've seen, with what we've discussed so far, what should we be expecting?
Just like I've said, Nigeria is not a poor country, and we have the potential to pay whatever debt we take. I think Nigerians should look forward and even ask for those development, those infrastructure that government is taking the loan. We should be expecting to see the results. And I believe that 1 year, 12 months is enough to see changes. You must see what you have spent the money on. We have seen how they turn Dubai a desert to a paradise. And we have seen, America is the most indebted nation in the world, about 38 trillion debt. But when you enter America today, you can see the infrastructure that we want to see a working Nigeria.
Okay, we want to say a big thank you to Comrade Sonjo Akomo, who is a finance analyst and retired banker. He's done justice to the conversation. I want to thank you very much on behalf of our producers and crew members. We'll go on a break, and when we come back, it's going to be sport updates. Stay with us. Don't go away.
Leo Cienza, who's dangerous, cuts inside, goes down. Referee had a really good position, no penalty.